Hey traders, this is Cousin Benny coming to you on Sunday night from Day Trading Radio with a review of the market for the week of January the 18th. Tomorrow is Martin Luther King Day celebration, so the markets will be off here in the US. Canadian markets will be open. And starting right off with the S&P, I was looking for a pullback on these three candles, but we didn't get it. Excuse me. I was looking for about 3%. Didn't think 5% would come into it, and you can see what happened. The market kept trending higher. We have a lot of breakouts, and if you look at the comp, a lot of this is the Apple, of course, but we had a lot of trades that are moving higher. Breakouts, I note, were the semis this past week, and a number of small cap stocks as well as those on the S&P. What I'm looking at currently is I had a note to look at Oracle on Tuesday. I note that Johnny was looking at it for the 10 for 1,000 watch list. I like this pattern where you have an uptrend and excuse me, let me turn my TV down. You have a pullback into the 20 or the 50 or the 100 EMA, sometimes the 8 or 10 EMA as well, but you're pulling back to an EMA on consolidation, Bollinger Band squeezing. I'm keeping an eye on this for possible call positions. The 60 is not oversold, but it is moving higher, so I'm watching that. SPRD, I pointed this out last week, and note these. I like this in an uptrending stock, in an uptrending market, where you have consolidation pulling back to a major moving average, like you have in these locations. When you see these, you most invariably can get into a long in these areas here, obviously. So I'll be looking for that kind of consolidation after a few more days on spread room to maybe get into a trade. I like VICO. Only because of the negative news that came out on Cree the other day on LEDs, and I'm noticing that this is sitting on the 8 EMA. It bounced right off the 10 EMA, which is right here on the bottom of this wick. Alright, so I'll be watching for a position here with stochastics oversold on the 60. Let's jump over to the next page. I'm also looking at Novelis. A lot of these jumped out at me last week, where we had Bollinger Band squeezing, and you can see that you always buy the Bollinger Band, the high within the squeeze. You would have bought this candle, or in this case, you would have bought the high within the squeeze would have been this. You would have got in on this trade on Friday. Okay. Also, ALTR, mentioned this on last week, that at this candle here, where IBD was talking about the change from C plus accumulation, and it's changed to B plus, and you can see what happened. Bollinger Band squeeze, and on this particular candle, the 10th, we would have been into this trade on a nice position with calls. Okay, you know how I trade these, so I would look at the 30 and the 60 on the 10th, and we have an oversold condition, and we would have been off to the races. You would have made a nice chunk of change here from 36 up to almost 40. Okay. Varian Semiconductor, kind of odd, but I noticed that Goldman Sachs had talked about upgrading this on the 4th, and they mentioned that the calls were very underpriced, which I thought was very unusual for a big house like this to say the calls were underpriced. So I looked at Varian at that time, and on the 4th, you can see where we were hitting the upper Bollinger Bands and moving back, but we didn't fall off to 20 that much. So you could have got into this trade on the high within the squeeze, which would have been this candle right here. You would have got in on this one, this candle here. The high within the squeeze, you get on the close above that. So you could have got into this and you would have had a nice move on Varian. Okay, VTech, similar situation. where on the daily we had VTech. Oh, this is the wrong symbol. Sorry. Well, I must have wrote down the wrong symbol. Anyway, I'll keep going through my list. I'm looking at VCO. I like this. Oh, we talked about this one already. Sorry. Delta Airlines doing quite nicely. Why is okay? Delta. All right. Daily. Again, we had a pullback to a trend line and a major moving average. I'm looking to get into calls on this particular trade, but we're overbought currently, so I'll look for this to pull back a little bit before I get into this trade. I like to see this candle come back down into an oversold condition on the hourly, and that'll be my entry, okay, like we had here on the 11th and 12th. EK, you can trade this like an option because it is fairly cheap, okay. We have a pullback. I'm looking for it to come back to this lower trend line here. I don't know if that'll happen, but it's possible. Notice stochastics are giving us a little bit of a divergence. Prices is basically going sideways. ATPG, notice that oil is doing quite well, if you haven't noticed. Being sarcastic there, but notice the stochastics. I'm waiting for this to give us a definitive buy signal, but I'm currently in a small position here on ATPG with the February 16 calls. Note that gold has broken down, like I was talking about this candle right here, where I got into GLD as well as GG. We finally had that breakdown. Newmont Mining I was also looking at, although I didn't post it in the room. You can see the candle, the Bollinger Bands are expanding, so I'm expecting this to embed and move lower. HD, this is looking quite nice. Again, I like this pattern where you have a pullback consolidation to a trend line. Okay, you have a pivot point here, as Johnny teaches you. You have Bollinger Band squeezing. You buy the high within the squeeze. This is the squeeze here, and you can see that upon this closing candle here, this should continue to go higher on an uptrending stock. Okay, that's the rule. You buy the high within the squeeze, close above same. Okay, so just keep that in mind for future reference. Intel, we're in it. I'm in it, but I don't think anything's going to happen with this. I have many winning trades on Rovi and such, so we knocked out so many points on this particular trade last week and the week before with Johnny. Elvis, I'm looking for this to continue moving higher off of this trend line. Note that the casinos are doing well. Win is doing well. Okay, it's flagging out here. I expect Win to continue higher. MGM, all the casinos are doing well. It's following the ADMA up. Okay, MasterCard, I just wanted to note that Johnny had a nice move here on MasterCard, where this was resistance before in this area, and we broke above that on Friday. So watch for MasterCard to continue. MDT, I'm watching this for a nice trend up, and I would expect this with the squeeze and the 200 EMA at this point here to be a good options trade. So I'd look at the hourly and keep an eye on this. When this gets oversold and comes back down like it did on the 10th, you'd have a nice trade here on MDT, Medtronic. You've traded that in the past. Let's see, what else? NVIDIA, what can you say about NVIDIA? It went nuts on the past week or so. Again, you watch these type of trades where you have a consolidation into the 20 or the 80 EMAs or any of the major EMAs, and you get a nice takeoff. Bollinger Band squeeze, remember, inside the high within the squeeze. Technically, this is the high. You would have bought this candle here, and you'd have been off to the races on an uptrending stock. Okay, so you can see 200 EMA is turning up high nicely. Okay, Ryland, unfortunately, got stopped out of this one last week on this candle right here. I had my stops were following the trade up, and I got stopped out of this. Unfortunately, I wasn't paying attention, but we had the breakout on Friday, and that really kind of ticked me off. But note the VIX volatility is VIX. What's the matter, VIX? Note that we're moving down, and complacency is coming back into the market, but the market's strong, so I'm not surprised. AIG, I'm looking for a trade here. I would like to see this come down to the 50 EMA, which would give me a nice hourly. Well, the hourly's already oversold, but it looks like it's embedding here, so I'm waiting for the MACD to give me a buy signal on this if we come back down a little bit further on the daily. So I'd like to see this come down to the 50. That would give me everything I need to enter a trade there. McDonald's, well, we're still in that. So I took 15 calls off last week on Friday on this move up. Beautiful trade on Johnny's part. I'm looking for this to come up, pop up, and maybe gives me another entry. Notice that we stopped right at the 8 EMA. Okay, we had a little wick here, not much to note, but we could trade back into this candle and then take off to the races. So again, this is Cousin Benny coming to you from Day Trading Radio with what I'm looking at for the week of January the 18th. Take care, and remember to take profits.